What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we've got a little bit of Steam Deck 2 rumor stuff, some news to talk about. And what's cool about this, it's actually based off of the Moore's Law podcast I have watched. And I watch a lot of his podcasts, catch a lot of his content. And yeah, so it was interesting. There's been a lot of articles today talking about what they were talking about in that video, which is some Steam Deck 2 rumors, the potential hardware and release date time, and also that Valve home console. So I thought we'd take a look at this Tom's Guide article. We'll read through it and we'll talk about it a little bit. Steam Deck 2 rumored to be in the works, and it may arrive with a massive AMD APU upgrade. And will Valve finally deliver a home console too, which is definitely something we've talked about in the past. And I do think Valve is probably planning something with a SteamOS home console, and I think that would be pretty awesome. I know I would want to grab one up, check it out, do a review, and compare it to the Deck 2 and that type of stuff. But yeah, we'll see what the rest of the stuff is they say here, and yeah, I'd love to see something like that. The rumored Steam Deck 2 is one of the most hotly anticipated gaming handhelds, and while it may be a while before it launches, Valve may finally have its reason to start working on its next-gen gaming device. According to a recent Moore's Law is Dead podcast, internal sources suggest that Valve is working on its next device, pointing to a Steam Deck 2. What's more, it's tipped to deliver a major performance boost based on a now leaked AMD Magnus Zen 6 APU, which is expected to power the PS6 and the next Xbox, which would be pretty interesting. Of course, I don't think you'd be looking at PS6 and Xbox power and portability in a Steam Deck 2, but based on that architecture that they have there with Zen 6 and being based off of the new technology, that would be really cool. And I wonder what the TDP would be that they're going to be shooting for there, if Valve is still going to be trying to keep that pretty low around that 15, or if they're going to bump that up, or what this kind of architecture or what Magnus is going to really require there. But yeah, that would be pretty interesting to see kind of parity across the board when it came to something like the Deck, PS6, and the Xbox. Maybe not in raw power, but in technology and architecture. As reported, this processor is already rumored to be the driving force of next-gen consoles, as Moore's Law is Dead found ties with codenames found in the leaked documents, notably Miro, with this being an unused codename for the Steam Deck's APU. Along with YouTuber Jimmy Champagne, the video discusses Valve's possible plans for its future roadmap, which include a rumored Valve home console and hints at a subtle partnership with Sony, which I think would be pretty interesting. Valve pretty much handles like all their hardware, I think, and then they have their software side of things and SteamOS. So I wonder what the partnership with Sony would bring to the table when it comes to either the home console market or the Steam Deck 2 or whatever the case may be there. That would be interesting. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about a potential Sony partnership with Valve when it comes to maybe that home console or the Steam Deck 2. While much of this is speculation, as Valve has yet to officially announce a Steam Deck 2 being in the works, the rumored Magnus APU does give the company reason to get its next-gen gaming handheld in the works. As per an interview with Valve's SteamOS designer, the company isn't thinking about new hardware until next year at least. That was back in CES 2025, and it's now looking like 2026 maybe when we see this new hardware. And I remember that interview in CES. I covered that in a video with the SteamOS designer and kind of what they were thinking about with the next Steam Deck. And it was pretty clear that, you know, they were looking at another year or two before the next release. And I think with their approach to things here and how the Steam Deck has worked out for them, while I would normally say in PC world we want to upgrade faster than that, and there are the other Windows handhelds that are upgrading faster, I think something like a 5-year cycle might work out well for Valve here when it comes to the Steam Deck. To further back this up, they also stated to The Verge that changing the performance level is not something we're taking lightly, and we only want to do so when there's significant enough increase to be had when talking about a possible Steam Deck successor. And I remember that part of the interview as well. But Valve's been very clear since the beginning with Steam Deck that they don't want to just churn these out every year or two or even 3. They really want there to be enough change in the technology where you feel like you're actually upgrading or needing to buy the next device. Not like now where we're kind of getting the Z1 Extreme that's already out up against the upcoming Z2 Extreme with about 20% boost in performance, and for some people that's just not going to be a big enough reason to upgrade. So I think Valve has the right idea there. With this AMD Magnus APU with Zen 6 architecture now tipped to be involved with Valve's next-gen device, which is expected to offer a huge boost to performance in gaming, Valve may leverage some form of this processor to power its Steam Deck 2. And that's what I was talking about earlier, a cut down version of whatever the PS6 and Xbox are going to have, but based on that Zen 6 architecture. So that would make sense. Plus, seeing as it may be used in a PS6 or upcoming Xbox console, it should offer the significant performance leap Valve is after. Yeah, and it should be efficient as well. AMD has been making some gains again, especially when we get into the Z2 Extreme, and I'm sure beyond here, and into Zen 6, a lot more gains when it comes to power efficiency. There's no telling when a Steam Deck 2 will arrive, but with AMD's Zen 6 expected to arrive in 2026 or 2027, it looks to still be a good while until we see what Valve has up their sleeve. And yeah, I think we are probably still out a ways. And while I'd like to say 2026, I would not be surprised if it was more spring to mid 2027. But I do know there's some rumors that come holiday next year in 2026 that's when the next consoles like the PS6 or the Xbox could be coming. So that chip may be ready in time for Valve in 2026. So it'll be hard to tell. We'll have to keep an eye out. In the meantime, Microsoft's upcoming ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X are set to launch this fall, and there's at least a Lenovo Legion Go S with SteamOS to check out. Moreover, the Valve Deckard VR headset is tipped to be arriving soon. And we also have the Z2 Extreme devices coming, all from MSI, Lenovo, and of course those Xbox ones. So we have three major releases this fall, all coming actually, some starting in the next couple of months. So it's going to be fun checking all these out. With a first look at a leaked Lenovo Legion Go 2 prototype, which, yeah, I had a video up on that as well, indicating a September launch too. It's looking to be a big year for next-gen gaming handhelds. Yes, of course, MSI, Lenovo, and ASUS all have their next-gen Ryzen Z2 Extreme devices coming out, and so we'll have to see how all those pan out and compare them up against all the Z1 Extremes we have. And also with that Xbox Ally device, we have the new operating system that's going to be happening, or at least how they are working the Xbox full screen experience with Windows and trying to save resources. So that's going to be an interesting one to check out and compare performance to regular Windows and to SteamOS and all of that. And at least this is some kind of information about the Steam Deck 2. This is all kind of take with a grain of salt rumor stuff, but it all sounds like it could be correct, or at least in the right direction here. And I do think by 2027, Valve would probably want to have their next Steam Deck ready to go, and it makes sense that maybe that Zen 6 is where they're looking, and it'd probably be another custom version of that, which would be nice to see, because we saw how well that has worked out in the current Steam Deck, being a custom chip that they could really work on. So I could see that being the case there too. But yeah, it's kind of fun to finally have some Steam Deck stuff to talk about, and the Steam Deck 2, and potentially that home console, which I personally would be very interested in checking out if it does turn out to be something on the way. But anyways, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.